Hey guys, so I did a first live video and the voice was not there, so I have to do it again. So I'm doing it again, and yeah, so let's start again. So the okay, so let's start again. So what I was doing is basically we are building a React to do application with React and TypeScript, and for the CSS part we are using Bulma. So here is Bulma. So yeah, so let's get started. So what we have to do is, so we have to build a to-do application, and to build so a simple to-do application will look something like this, where I can add a to-do, and there will be a list of all the items. So we're going to target that. First and foremost, I'm going to remove so we have a sample application with TypeScript set it up. So firstly foremost, I'm going to remove all of this stuff, and we're going to use our own CSS and everything. So firstly and foremost, I'm using Bulma. So I already have Bulma installed. I installed it using npm, and I'm just going to include it here. So import Bulma css/bulma.css. So now we have Bulma in here, and now I can use all the classes provided by Bulma. So let's go and see. So we need an input where we can input our to do. So I'm going to just go there, and yeah, so let's go into the, not in the components, in the form. Okay, and so this is the input basically. Let's get in here and let's see. So I'm going to copy this, and let's use this. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to paste this one. So because we are inside React, so I can't use class because it's a reserved keyword. So instead of, we are going to use class name here, and yeah, so let's go and use class name. And because it's JSX, we have to always close elements, so I'm going to close the element here. We don't need this, so let's not worry about this. So now we have an input. Let's see how that looks. You can see we have the input here, but yeah, it's not looking good. What I want to do is I want to put it in the center, and yeah, so it should be centered, it should be somewhere here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside a container like this. I'm going to give it a class name as the input container here, and yeah, let's go and see. So I have put the input inside it. It still look the same, so let's put some CSS in input container. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to put some CSS into input container, and I'm going to make its width 400 pixel, and yeah, I mean, that is that. Let's see, now we have it inside the input. So we, but it's left on the left side, so we need it to align into the center. For that, we already have app dot like our app container. So what I'm going to do is basically in the dot app, I am going to put the display as flex, and I'm going to do a justify content center. The reason being I want to move it to the center. So let's see if that works. Yeah, it looks good. So now what I want to do is I want to move this input a bit downward. So I'm going to give it a margin top 40 pixel. So yeah, it's a bit downwards now, right? So let's go here. We have an input, but we also need a button, from so it will be like a add item button. So whatever we type in here, we click on the add item and it will be shown in the list here. So I'm going to I'm just going to create a button here, add item. But yeah, it's so you can see the button here, but it's not looking good. So let's dive into Bulma and let's try to find a button which looks good. So where it can be, so in the elements, yeah, here we have a button. So we have like a simple button here, we have colorful button here, and all kind of buttons here. So I'm going to use this success one. So I can get the CSS from here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it here. Right. Again, we can't use class, so it will be a class name. And yeah, instead of the success, we need add item. So let's just add that. And yeah, now what we have to do is we'll go here, we'll go to the React application. Oh, so there is the button, but what I want to do is I want to move this button here. So what we are going to do in order to do that, we have this input container, and what we'll do in this input container, we are going to give it a display flex, right? And we're going to say, because we made a display flex, by default all the element will fall in a row formation and the add item will go up. But what I want a bit space here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new class to this, add to do item here, and yeah, so I'm going to do add to do item, and I'm going to give it a margin from left basically. So I'm going to give it a 10 pixel margin, right? And if I go here, yeah, you can see there is the margin. So that is that. Now what I want to do is yeah, so now if you type in here, you can see we can type in, but nothing happens when we click on the add item. So first step is to actually save this string inside some state variable so we can access it when we click on add item. So what we are going to do is we are going to go in the code and create a state variable. So I'm going to use hooks. I hope you all guys are familiar with hooks. So I'm going to say use state and define an empty string. The name I will use will be to do item, and to set it, the updater function, I will name it set to do item basically. So now one of the most important thing about this is that I'm using this. So this is basically nothing, it's a TypeScript thing, and I'm just going to say that this state takes a string, and so the benefit of doing this is if I'm trying to set an array into set to do item, it will throw an error that argument of type this is not assignable to parameter of type this is not assignable to type string. So it is basically type check, so that we always save string in it because that is what it meant to be. So we'll remove it now. So now what we want to do whenever we type in, so if we console the to do item for now, right, and and if we go in our code, you can see like an empty string here. So and as we type, because it is not getting updated, nothing is happening here. So what we have to do is we have to update it. So in order to update it, we have to set it. So whenever, what I'm doing is, whenever the input changes, I'm going to take the value of that input, e.target.value, and I'm going to set it inside the to do item. So let's see if that works. So now you can see the value, the same value which I have here. The reason for that is whenever we are typing in, this on change is getting fired, and we are setting the e.target. So e.target is basically this input, and we are taking its value, setting it inside the set to do item, which is getting transferred over to do item, and then it is triggering the re-render, and we are getting the to do item value. So that is great, that is good. Now what I want to do is I want to take this to do item and I'm going to put it inside the value. The reason for that is, right now this input is uncontrolled. By uncontrolled, what I mean is that this state does not control this input, right? We can set the item's value in the state, but we can't update its value using this variable. For example, if I type buy car, it will automatically show up here. This is because now this is a control input, so whatever value is inside the to do item will go inside it, and if I continue typing it, that means this value is going there and then it coming back. So it's kind of like a circular loop that is going on right now. So now but we needed initially empty, so we're going to keep it empty, and yeah, let's remove this. So now this is good, right? We are able to get the value here and all that, but now we have to show our list here, right? Well, let's show our list here. So in order to show that list, what I have to do is I'm going to create another list container here, right? And inside that list container we have list item. So every to do item will have its own div, and we are going to call it list item, right? And then there will be a p basically which will host the item, so which will be like, for now let's hard code it. So if you do it, you can see it is coming here, which is the reason for that is these two items, these two containers are inside app, and because we are not providing any flex direction, the default formation is row. So what we have to do is I can show you that on the browser. If you go here and we say this app flex direction column, so it will move everything here. And now the issue is that it is moved to the left side. The reason for that is because we have moved the direction from row to column, the x and y axis is flipped, and now we can't use justify content. Instead of this, we have to use align items, right? And this is good, but right now this is not at the left side because I want it in the left side, I don't want it in the center, but we'll figure that out. For now I'm going to use this CSS and go and paste it here. Yeah, so it will look like this. Now let's move it to the left. So in order to move it to the left, what I have to do, in the list container, I have to firstly set it width, which same as 400 pixel. Let's do that, and now you can see it moved here. But I also want to put its margin to the top because I don't want it to be colliding with the top input container. So let's move it, and now you can see this is there is a good amount of space in here. So we have the input, but on clicking on the item, this is not getting to the list, which is our ideal problem, right? Because we want to solve that. We have an item here, we click on the add item, it should be added here, and it just continue to have be like that. So in order to do that, what we have to do is on this click we have to update a list, right? So we have to keep that list in our state, which we will render here, and whenever we type anything and add item, we will add to that list and it will get automatically rendered here. So that's what basically we want to do. So yeah, now I want to save that list in the state, but the problem with useState is that it is not good at handling arrays or object, like complex function of removing items from an array and stuff. It is good for storing literal values like number and string. So in order to save the list, I'm going to use use reducer, and in use reducer what we can do is it lets you create like a small reducer for your component, and you can use it to have different kind of data types in your state. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this. So let's go here and copy paste it. So just to give you a general idea, what I try to do is whenever I'm building this small application, what I try to do is I try to keep everything in a single file. Eventually I will move it to outside to other files, but it is easier to me like this because it's easier for me to just move around the functions, around the components, and just easy to reason about when everything is in one place. But eventually I will move it outside to other files, not at the starting though. But you can have your own style however you want to like work on that. So we have a reducer. I'm going to rename it to Todo reducer, and we have a state here. So state will be a list of string. The reason why it will be a list of string, because every item is a string, and the to-do list will be like a list of these items, right? So because these items are string, we're going to have a list of array, a list of strings, basically array of strings. So we have to do it, so we don't need to worry about decrement and stuff. So the use reducer works in the same way as a redux reducer work. So what it do is it will take your state, which is like the previous state. In our case, initially it will be empty, and then we have action here, which is which will be very used for adding items, deleting item, or editing items. So let's just do that. So I'm going to create a new type here, add to do item, and what add to do item will do is, in our previous state, it's going to concate the action dot item. So our item will have two things. One is a type and the other is an item. And how our reducer will handle it will be, whenever it sees an action with type as add to do item, it is going to take the old state and just concate the new item into it and return it. So this is basically that. So now in order to use it, let's look at the syntax. I am also using the use reducer for the first time, so I am also not familiar with the syntax. So what we are going to do is we have a constant. So what use reducer do is it takes the reducer, which will be our to do reducer here, right? And then it takes the initial state. So our initial state will be an empty string because in the start there will be no to do item, right? And then it will give us two things. With the first is state. So the state is basically the current list, the current list of items that we have, and dispatch is just updater dispatcher, which will help us to update the string, add item to it, list item to it, or remove item from it. So what we are going to do is we are going to define it here. So we're going to say const use const, I'm going to say to do item list and dispatch equal to use reducer. So reducer can do two things. The first is our to do reducer. The second thing is the initial state, which will be an empty empty array. So let's console this and see what will happen. Now if I go here, and you can see, initially it is empty. Even if I type click on add, it will not get updated because we are not updating it right now. So in order to update it, what we have to do is we have to use the dispatch function, but for now it is like empty array. So let's update it. Now when we want to update it, we want to update it when we type something there and we click on the add item, right? So let's just do that. So on click, this is the button, and on the on click, what I want to do is I want to go call the dispatch function, and now this is really important, right? So now we want to dispatch an object. So whatever will be inside this object will be transferred to our action. Okay, so now action.type, if we want to add an item, so action.type needs to be add to do item. So the type needs to be add to do item, and the action.item need to be the item that we want to add, which in our case is to do item, right? Or not like this, like this. So let's see. Okay, I did a mistake there. There's a typo. I think it's to do. Yeah, this looks good. So now let's go in here and type something. So let's say buy cake. If I click, yeah, so you can see the buy cake is coming here. So if I keep adding it, it will keep get added. If I say buy a phone, it is not added right now here, but if I click on add item, it will add that as well. So now we have the list, but we are still not rendering it here. So let's do one thing. Yeah, so let's do one thing. Buy a phone, and yeah, just 1 second. So in order to have this list, what we have to do is basically go in, take the list and map over it. So we have the list here, and now we have to map it here. Okay, so just give me a second. We'll do that. So yeah, so let's do this. So console, yeah, okay. Now let's, okay, so this is our list item, right? So what we are going to do here, we are going to map over this list, and we are going to take out the item and the index, and we are going to return this thing. So let's go here and do this, right? And this will be our item. Okay, so now what we are doing here, is, okay, alright, I understand what you're trying to say. So I have to return this. Yeah. So what basically I have to do is, what I'm doing right now here is I'm mapping through a list, and for every item in the list, I outputting this list item dev, and inside that I'm going to put this item inside the p. So if we have buy car, then it will be buy car, buy groceries, and it will just go like that. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to say buy car here, click on add item, and you can see the buy car. If I say buy a phone, and if I hit item, you can see a buy a phone. So yeah, so this works, right? If I keep adding it, just keep adding it. But the problem, real problem here is this happens because we have to pass a key to every item that we are mapping. This is how React will keep track what to add and what to remove, basically. Alright, so let's do it now, and you can see I can add anything I want and it will not throw the error now. So that is good. Now we are able to add items, and we are able to see the items. Now let's see if we can delete them. Okay, let's try to delete them. In order to delete them, I need like a button here, right? So I need like a red button alongside the items. So let's use this button, and again I have to do it as a class name, and now I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say delete, right? And now if I go here and say buy car, for every item we have a delete button, which is not doing anything right now, but I don't like it. I want to move it here, not here, So what I'm going to do is, for every list item, what I'm going to say dot list item, I'm going to make it display to flex, right? And once I do display flex, they will come there. But what I want to do is I want them one at the left hand most side and the one at the right hand most side. So for that, what I'm going to do is justify content space between. So what space between do is it puts as much as possible space between the elements. So you can see now that this is moved to the rightmost side. So but now they are like sticking up, and I don't want that. So in order to do that, in order to stop that, what I'm going to do is put a margin top as 10 pixel. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks perfect. And you can see this is at the top, but it is not like centered aligned according to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say align it, because I want to align some things, align all the children vertically centered. So what I'm going to do is align item center, right? And now you can see they are like in the middle of it, and they looks more good, they look cool. So now I can so in theory I should be able to delete them by just clicking this, right? So let's try to do that. Let's do one thing here. Here we are going to do this. So in a case, we are going to say delete. So I'm going to say delete to do item, right? And so what I'm going to do, is, so there are multiple ways to remove an element from the list. One method is splice, but I personally like filtering the element out, because that will give you like a new array. But yeah, let's use splice. That is like more, I think, better solution for the problem we have right now. So what we're going to do is we have state dot splice, right? So we're going to say like at which index we want to remove it. So action dot item index, and how many element we want to delete. We only want to delete one element, and after that we're just going to return the state. right? And now we have multiple line code here, so what we have to do is we have to do something like this, right? Just for better better indentation, better good looking code. So what I'm going to do, delete to do item for every so in the R action I'm going to send item index, and it will going to splice that element, and then this is going to return the new new state here. So let's jump into it. Yeah, so we have the index here. So what we're going to do, on click of this item, we're going to say dispatch type. Now type is very important, you all know, and then an item index. So item index will be the index which we currently have, and then the type will be delete to do item. Okay, so let's see if that works. We'll go here, we'll type by car. I'm going to add like dummy items here. Let's see if that works. Oh, it's not working. Okay, so I maybe know the reason why it's not working. If I do something like this, I think it will work. Okay, let's see. By phone, add item. By car, add item. By sofa, add item. By computer, add item. So let's see if it deletes the right element. So if I click on by sofa, it is deleting all the element below it, right? And that's a very strange bug, right? So instead of this, what we're going to do is we're going to filter it, which is like a much more easier way to solve it. I'm not sure why it is being like this, right? I'm not sure, but yeah, let's filter it out, which is like much more easier way to do it, right? And let's do one thing. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the state, we're going to filter it, and we're going to take the item and its index. I'm just going to say if action dot index item equal to index not equal to the current index. So what it's going to do is, for example, if you have 4 items and you pass the 4 as the 4 as the index, action index, right? You have like you have like 5 items and you pass the 4 as an index. What it will do is it will go through the whole array and check if the index is same. If the index is same, it will not include that in the resulting array, and thus deleting it. So it is simple as that. And now we don't need the item, right? So we can just do it like this. So now let's see if that works. By phone, by car, by something, right? And let's do it. So if I delete by phone, it deleted. If I click by delete by car, it deletes by something, right? By something, by car, by TV. Let's delete by TV. Let's delete by something. Yeah. So delete also work. Great. Now what I want to do is I want the ability to edit the element, right? So in order to edit it, what I want to do is I want to provide an edit button at first here, which will be like an edit button, and which will not be like a danger, it will be like a success, SUCC, yeah, success. So if I go here, right, so you can see the edit button here. But yeah, right now edit also delete things, so it's deleting an element for now, but yeah. So what I want is basically when we click on edit, this will get converted to save, and this this text, it will be converted to an input, and in that input we'll be able to write anything we want, and once we click on save, it will be basically updated in the list as well. So we will get onto that, but firstly what I want to do, I want to move this component to a different file now. Let's just do that. This is what I was talking about. Let's create a new folder called Todo, and this will have all the components, and here I will create Todo item tsx. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize a simple, I'm going to import React to define a functional component called Todo item, and it's going to return null for now. We're going to move the CSS, not the CSS, the JSX here, but for now I'm just going to say return Todo item, and this works. Not return, export default. So we'll be able to import it there. So export default Todo item, and instead of this JSX here, what I'm going to return is the simple return Todo item. So I'm going to import that. So it is imported here now, and we're going to use it, and we are going to pass the current item yeah, so we're going to pass the current item to it, and because we are mapping, so we also going to providing an index here. Well, I'll tell you what is this error in a second. So we don't need it here now. What we need to do is we have to move all of this here. Oops. So yeah, now we have this. Now let's have a look at it, and let's see what we can change here. So we don't need this key here now, because the key is already being used outside. Instead here I will have an item. So now because we are using TypeScript, let's define its props. So I'm going to define an interface called Todo item interface, not interface but props. So basically who you know, the people who are familiar with TypeScript, they already know what I'm trying to do, but who are not familiar with TypeScript, what I'm actually doing here is I'm defining what type of props I can pass to Todo item. So in case if I try to pass an invalid item, or if I don't pass a required item, the compiler will throw error. So item, so item is a string, basically that's how we defined it before as well. So we're going to define its type. We're going to say that it's a React FC. FC is basically functional component, and its props type is this. So now if I don't provide this, then so if I provide like an arbitrary value here, it will say this is declare this does not exist on type this, right? But if I say item, then it will work. Okay, so now we have the item, but we still missing these two things. So instead of using the dispatch here, because we are defining a dispatch here, instead of using it here, I just want to use it here. But instead of that, what I want to do is I want to pass two function. One is on click. So what on click basically do is on click, not on click, on delete, right? And on delete is basically a function which don't do anything, actually it just calls the function and don't return anything. And then there will be a on save as well. but yeah, we'll talk about on save and audit it in a bit. So instead of this, now what I want to do is I want to call the on delete directly here, and I have to specify that here, right? And here now you will see the error. The error is here because TypeScript is saying that we have on delete, that it should be able to specify on delete and on save, right? So it should be able to specify that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to refactor it a bit here. So what I'm going to do, item is getting passed, I'm going to pass on delete, and inside on delete I'm going to call the dispatch function here instead of there, because I have access to the index as well here, so it will work just fine. Now the only thing we need is on save, but we don't currently have on save or anything, so I'm just going to do nothing here, so now you can see there is no error and it's working fine. So now we'll do a on save here. So let's not worry about the on save right now, and we'll worry about it later. So let's see if our code works, if the refactoring worked or not. I say buy car, I do add item, I say buy phone, I add item, I say buy something, right? It goes there. Now let's delete it. Yeah, it's working, so that's great. So let's do one thing now. Yeah, so now we want the ability to edit the item, right now this does not do anything, so we need the ability to edit the item, right? So in order to do that, what we are going to do is basically, when we click on this edit, this will convert to a input. In order to do that, we have to make this an input, right, when the edit button is clicked. So in order to do that, I'm going to keep a state variable called is editing, and then set is editing, right? And I'm going to keep a variable called useState here, and so this will be a boolean because because it's a state if something is getting edited or not. So I'm going to basically keep it as a boolean, and for now, right, for the first time, for the initial value, it is always going to be false, and I'm going to define a type as boolean because it is a boolean, right? So TypeScript knows that we can always just save a boolean here. So what we want to do, whenever edit will be clicked, we want to set the is editing to true, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say if is editing, if we are editing the item, we're going to just say we're going to take the same input from here. Yeah, we're going to say the input, let's not worry about this right now. Right, so what we're going to say, if editing is happening, if we are currently editing the element, then it should be shown like this. If not, we can do something like this. So if it's not getting edited, then just do this. Okay, not here, here. All right, now because this is the input, we need a variable in the state to hold its state. So we're going to do const we can say to do item, and we can say set to do item, right? And we're going to do use state. It's going to be a string, so let's make it a string. And so it will not be empty, it should always have the value of this item. I'll explain in a bit why it need to be like that, but yeah, this is essentially that. And if I go here, right, and if I type by phone here, I'll click on the add item, and if I click, you can see this become this, right? And if I added it, this will be changed. So now why I put it like item here, the reason is that this should be the initial value, and whenever the item is rendered, its initial value will be the item's value. For example, if I say by phone here, and if I hit add item, then it should, this is the item value, and if I click on edit, its initial value should be by phone. Okay, so that's why we are doing it this way. Now let's do one thing. So this is that, but now the problem is we don't see the save button here. So once it's in the editing mode, we should show a save button here, right? So for that, what we are going to do, we're going to go here, we're going to say if it is editing, then we're going to render a new button, which we'll write in a bit. But if it's not editing, then it should show this button which it was showing before, right? So let's just keep it like this. Right, and then again a new button here, but yeah, but it will be named as save, and this will call our save function. But there is a catch. I'll explain you what it is. So we're going to say on save, and we're going to pass the latest to do item in it. Okay, so what we are doing basically, if the item is in the editing mode, we will show the save button, or else we'll show the edit button. So why we are passing to do item in it? The reason we want to pass this to do item is in it because when we click on the edit here, right now it's not rendering, but when we click on the edit, whatever the value is inside that new input, the editing input, that is inside the to do item, and when we click on save, we need that latest value to be updated in the list. So in order to do that, let's do, okay, so why it shows error? It shows error because here we say that it don't take any arguments, but here we are passing a argument, right? So we have to define that parameter here. So let's say we'll say to do item, which will be a string. It's important to define a type, because if I say number, then it will throw the error here that argument of time string is not assignable to parameter of time number, which is the right thing, right? You always want it to be a string, not a number. So that is good. Now let's see, let's go here and reload this. So let's say by phone add item, by something add item. Now if I click on edit, then you can say this is converting to save. Same goes for this, right? But right now we haven't defined any on save here because it's an empty function. So when we call on save, we pass in the to do item, which will be passed in here. So let's so we'll have the updated to do item, right? Now what we can do is we can dispatch a type So we have to define a new type here, but let's not worry about it now. We'll say delete, instead of delete we say update to do item, right? And in the update I say, so I have to give the item index the index, and I have to give the new updated item, which will be this, right? So this will be the updated string, like the updated thing that we have just typed in. So now let's go to this and define a new case, update to do item. And in this case what we have to do is, we have to update this state, right? So what we can do is, we have state and we can make a copy of this, copy state, right? We'll make a copy of it, and what we are going to do in this copy state, because we have the action dot item index, right, to return, right, we'll make it equal to action dot update. Okay, so what is this, right? So let me walk you through this. So what we are basically doing, we are creating a copy of the state, so we don't accidentally modify the already state, and we make a copy of it. And then what we do, because we already have the index, right? So for example, if you have a array like 1 2 3 4 5 a, right? So how you want to modify the value of this index? You're going to say a equal to second element, right? Because 0 1 2 equal to a new value, right? And that's what exactly I'm doing. I have the index which I'm passing from here, right? And I have the new value which I'm passing from here, which is coming from the inside the to do item, right? So let's just go in here and see if everything seems to be fine. I think let's try to run this. So there is by phone, there is by Teddy, by a car, by a plant, right? Now let's try to edit it. So by Teddy, let's say not by Teddy, right? And click on save. Okay. So what I am doing wrong here, I think the list is getting updated. Let's see if you can console it. I think the state is getting updated, but yeah, to do item list. So the problem is, I am saving the element, but I also have to set the is editing to false, right? If we don't do it, then it will always be in the edit mode, and it will always show as a input, which we don't want, right? So I also have to set it to false here. Okay, and yeah, so let's try it out. By car, add item, by phone, add item, by something, add item, add it by a phone. Click on save, and voila, you can see, right, it changed to by a phone. It was by phone, then I just made it by a phone and become a by a phone. By car, by two cars, right? Save it and it become by two cars, right? I made a mistake, but don't worry, we have the added functionality, so I can just do this. So this is cool, right? Yeah, so the UI is not looking good because I want them to be like together. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so the reason they are being like this is because the justify content is space between, and it is putting space between all of the elements. So what I'm going to do is if I wrap these two buttons in like a single container, then they will be moved together. So let's see if that is like applicable. Yeah. So but I want like a bit space in between. So what I'm going to do, so this thing I'm going to put inside dev. Okay. Right. What I'm going to do is, okay, so I see what is happening because I put inside dev. Just go like this. So instead of that, what I'm going to say, I'm going to make their display flex, and I'm going to say inside this div that you have a margin left 10 pixel, and here you go. It looks just fine. So let's do that. So this dev, I'm going to name it button container, right? And this div I'm going to name button container, right? I'm going to say edit buttons container, right? So let's go here and write some more CSS. Edit button container basically will have margin to the left, which will be 5 pixel, not 5 pixel, it will be 10 pixel, right? And this button container will have a display flex because we want to show all of the buttons in like a row formation. So we're going to say display flex and just, yeah. So this looks cool, right? I can still delete it even if I'm in the editing stage. I can still delete it. So yeah. So now what I'm going to do is, that's pretty much it for the application, but there is some things that I want to fix. For example, this, I think when we click on the item, this should be cleaned, and for like a new item, so we are going to just delete that, do that. Let's do that. How we're going to do it? In the app.tsx, what we are going to do is, whenever you dispatch this function, we are going to actually also make them input empty, right? So let's say on add item, and I'm just going to do this, and then I will going to do set to do as empty. I'm going to use a use callback here. So use callback basically allows you to define your function based on dependencies. So for example, what are dependencies? Our dependencies is to do item and dispatch, I guess. Right. Oh, it is showing some error. Let me see this. Yeah. I'm going to fix that. So on add item, I'm just going to specify it. Right. So yeah, let's see if that works. Yeah. By phone, add. Yeah, that's how we wanted it. By something, right? This placeholder is also not looking good. Let's change it to something much more descriptive. So tag, instead of text input, we will have what's on your list today, right? We're going to make it like this. Yeah. Okay. So what's on it? So I'm just going to like format it a bit. Just going to move all of this down so it will look good and easy to read. Okay, so this is done. Now this is also good. So what I want to do is I don't want to show it like this here. So instead of this, what I want is that I have a to-do list and it will take items, or you can say list, and it will render the list, right? So the list will be to do item list, right? So we are going to go into to do, we're going to create a new file called to do list.tsx, right? And I'm going to paste it. I'm going to comment this one now, but essentially it will be simple. Import React from React, right? And so I'm just going to copy over this to do item. And I don't need this, right? Yeah, so I'm going to copy this. This I'm going to format. Right. So we don't need all of this because it's from a different component, right? So instead of that, we just need these. Right, but now we need the to do item list and everything. So this is not what we need. We need the list from here, which we are going to map over, and we need the dispatch function, right? So we also need the dispatch function from here. So I'm going to just say dispatch. So we just need two things from here. One is list, which will be a string of array of strings, and a dispatch, which I'm just going to do any for now because I actually don't know the type of it. So I'm just right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the to do item here. I have to change the name, that's it seems like the same component. So to do list, right? So let's make it to do list. Go here, make it to do list as well. Go here, to do item. I'm going to import it, and yeah, voila. So this seems to work. Like this seems to, at least syntax wise, it seems to work. And I'm going to import the to do list here. Right, and now I don't need the to do item here. So this is my approach, right? So previously what I did, I wrote everything in this single file, and then I moved it outside. So now I have to pass the dispatch function as well in here. So I'm just going to pass the dispatch, so it will be able to now what I want to do is I even don't need this here. So I'm going to move it outside eventually, but let's move this outside first. So we don't need it here. So what I'm going to create a new folder called reducer. Inside reducer we'll have to do.ts, and inside this will be an export default, so I can just import it there. I'm going to format it right, and I'm going to import it here. Right, this looks good, this looks good. Now what I want to do, I even don't want this here. Instead what I want to do is I want a to do input, right? And not here, in here I want to create a to do input.tsx, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing here as well. To do input, just keep it like this. I'm going to take this code from here, copy paste it. This is what I always do whenever I have to create like components, because I don't want to write things again and again. So I'm just going to copy paste everything. Yeah, and so now we have this, and I don't need this, right? So what we need here, right? Let's look into that. So I don't need it to be named to do list now, because it will be to do input. So the value to do item, so we need the state, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to move this state from here to inside this, right? We're going to import the use state, and we are good to go. And on add item, so on add item is a function which should be passed from outside. And basically what on add item will do, it will take a string, the to do item, and it will return nothing. So the reason I'm passing the to do string now here is because now we don't have access to our state there, right? Where we want to add the element. So what I'm going to do is, instead of adding the element there, I'm going to pass it from here. So on adding the item, what I'm going to do is do this and do set to do item, and set it empty, right? Because we want to set it empty. So that is good. So let's go here. So now we don't want to do this, we only want to do, and we don't have to do this as well because it's now outside. So let's do on add input here, and let's import it. Yeah, so we have a to do input, and on add item it's going to call the on add item, which pass the to do item here and it adds it. And then we have the to do list, which is basically so we have these components right here. Now let's see if that works. Buy a car, voila, it works. Buy a phone, it works. Yeah, buy something, it works. Let's try to edit something. Buy a car, instead of buy a car, buy 2 cars. And if I hit save, it works. Great. Now there is only one thing remaining, which is like this space. I want it to have a space as well. So instead of giving it a space, I'm going to give the input a space. So here is this input. I'm going to give a margin right 10 pixel. Yeah, which is the right thing to do, I guess. Or left. I can give button container a margin left, or I can give this a margin left, but in same cases it seems like there's a bit of this. But yeah, what I can do is I can just give this input. So I'm going to use the child selector. So list item, input inside the list item will have a margin left. So now if I do a buy phone and hit edit, why it's not working? Dot list item input. Because I added margin left, it should be margin right. Yeah, so now it works right. So yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So let me walk you through what we have did today. So basically we started writing a to-do application, and we did everything on the one page, then we moved every bit to outside, like in different files. So we have a to-do input here, which is this basically. Then we have a to-do list, which is just so there are bugs definitely. For example, this, you are still able to add like a empty string, but I'll leave it up to you guys to figure this out, how to solve this. I'm going to put this code in GitHub, and I'm going to post the link in the description, so you guys can have a look at that. But yeah, this is pretty much what we are doing, right? So yeah, and yeah, so if you guys have any question, just let me know in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as much as I can. So there seems to be bit bugs in this, but I'll leave it up to you to find those bug out, and if you can fix them, great. If you can't fix them, just tell me and in the comments, and I'll basically fix them and keep you guys updated on that. So yeah, thanks whoever joined this live stream, and this video will be available even after the live stream ends. So in case if you want to move this video to other guys, other people in your group, please do that. And yeah, sayonara for till the next time. Thanks guys.